Guys, welcome to TMW Off-Road. Today we're talking about the Pro R, one of our favorite vehicles. This new 4-cylinder is amazing in the sand, and the sand is where we love to ride. But there are some of you guys who don't really go to the sand dunes and like the rocks and rock crawling and need winches and all those kind of things. So today we're going to show you the TMW winch bumper that works for the Pro R and the Turbo R. And we're going to show you how to install that on these vehicles so that you feel comfortable taking your Pro R up in the rocks and running a winch. Using a T40 to remove the front plastic. You can leave the center section connected to that front piece because you're going to get rid of all of that plastic. So we got a 15mm socket to remove these 4 main bolts that hold the factory bumper in place. We use a 10mm socket to pull these 2 little brackets off here. We don't need those guys anymore. Okay guys, we got our bumper parts assembled here on the table for you. You can see we took a minute and bolted our winch into the TMW winch mount. Now this winch mount is much easier to put on the Pro if the winch is installed in the winch mount before it goes on the vehicle. So take a minute, get these 4 bolts installed in there. We used some bolts we had here. The winch does come with its own hardware to secure the winch to the bumper. For time's sake, we just used the ones we had sitting here. But we do supply new bolts to attach the winch mount to the frame, and then 3/8 bolts to attach the cover over the winch mount. So this is what it looks like, but do take a minute, install it, save yourself some headache, because once this thing goes on the car, it is almost impossible to get to those bolts with your radiator and everything in there, and there's going to be a lot of swearing, and you're going to be really unhappy if you don't take the time to put your winch in before it goes on the car. Take a minute to appreciate the suspension on this Pro R. Look at these big bad arms. When you get the bumper out of the way, it's really cool to kind of see how massive the front end of this thing is. We've got our winch mount and bumper ready to go on the front of this thing. We're using a 16mm socket to install these 4 main bolts. This thing is heavy. Sometimes it's nice if you have an extra hand to kind of help you hold it up in place. It's always a good idea to use a torque wrench when you can. We recommend torquing them between 55 and 60 foot-pounds of torque. It's easy to do on the lower 2. The upper 2 are so far in there, you have to use an extension. And as you know, the extensions make your torque rating and your torque wrench a little bit off. So you might have to fudge that a little bit. But it gives you a rough idea where you should start out with your torque wrench. So it's a good idea on all these fasteners to use Loctite, some type of thread locker to keep the bolts from backing out. In the off-road world, we're always beating these vehicles to death, and things come loose and wiggle loose and shake loose. So anything you can do to help prevent that is great. So if you got some red Loctite, Alright, this is our favorite part when we get to install the front bumper cover. Get to clean up the whole front end of this thing with some TMW goodness. This front bumper cover is made from 1/8 inch 1018 steel. Really strong. It's not overkill as far as weight, but it's really strong. So if you do get into some nasty rocks or land on the front of your car, it gives you some great protection for the front end of your vehicle. Also just finishes off the look of the winch bumper. You can see we put these bolts in here as kind of a placeholder for the fair lead. The fair lead that we have for this particular car is not here yet. When you buy the worn accent winch, it comes with a fair lead, so you'll have that when you order your winch. It'll come with that fair lead that'll bolt right on the bumper here. Sometimes this little metal clip on the plastic back there will slide out of position, so it's nice if you can make sure before you slide the bumper cover on that your little metal clips are in the proper position over the hole. Okay, so we got these 2 push pins up here that hold the plastic in place. So the easiest way to do it is just to pop the grill out. Drop those 2 push pins in. Popping the grill out allows you to hold the plastic from the bottom and push it into its proper shape. You do have these slots up on top here, and it is really hard after you're done with the bumper to try and install lights into these slots. So before you install your bumper cover, it's much easier to take a minute, figure out which light you're going to put on there if you want a Baja Designs, rigid, whatever, and get that installed before you put that on the vehicle. Hey guys, pretty simple install. Bumper's not too complicated. It looks amazing. There are some other bumpers out there on the market that have kind of copied our look and changed it, but you can only get the original from TMW.